So, okay, I got it.
I'm planning on going back to UFC.
You do?
If they'll have me, I would like to go back and fucking whoop someone's ass there.
Well, who would you want to, if it was offered? Justin Gaethje, it sounds like.
I'm not fighting at 55 though, but right now I'm not fighting in there because there's nobody to fight really. It's kind of slow rolling.
Like UFC would.
I don't really have a name in mind right now in the UFC. That's why I'm not there right now. Otherwise,
but the name, the draw, the excitement that you'd bring to it, I feel like it's really lacking in UFC. Everybody's
that's
rushing, everybody's
like, I'd
wrestling.
be there if there was somebody that I wanted to go fight. But
I want to see the rubber match with Conor McGregor.
with time for sure. Yeah, whenever he's back. Me and him for sure got unfinished.
If there's another fight that would sell and that would be huge, it would be that. It would be Diaz 3.
Oh yeah.
That could be, especially if Diaz gets past Poirier.
Yes.
Even if he doesn't. I mean, just that fight alone. I mean, there's the history between those two guys. I mean, that would be,
and it's so appealing stylistically as well. The fight, you know,
Yeah.
like I'm a grappler at heart. I love grappling, but I also understand that a jiu-jitsu tournament will put people to sleep. You know, even if you're into jiu-jitsu, it's hard to watch a jiu-jitsu tournament.
yes.
But anybody can see a punch hitting someone in the head and them falling down. That's that's exciting. And him and Diaz is such a great personality matchup. It's such a great skill clash. You know, if I was to design somebody that's going to bring the best out of a corner, you'd want someone that, you know, can hit back and take a big shot and put up at the trash. It's a beautiful fight. I would love to see that rematch.
Yeah, the thing about Diaz when they first fought was that he didn't give a fuck about trash talk. It didn't bother him at all.
All right. When that door flew open, everybody knew exactly who was walking through. That unmistakable energy filled the room as Nate Diaz stepped inside, and let me tell you, he came with a purpose. Years of tension between him and Conor McGregor hadn't faded one bit. What blew everyone away was how direct Diaz was about it. He pointed straight at McGregor, waving that White House card like it meant everything. This wasn't some respectful nod to past accomplishments or hunger for championship gold. This was raw rivalry at its finest. All that history and bad blood crashing together in one explosive moment. And honestly, when you see that level of intensity meet that much spotlight, you know something special is brewing.
Story that Conor McGregor is being talked to headline the White House card. I don't buy it. I can't buy it. Why are we would be turning to Conor McGregor? And the answer is also out there because he is the sport's biggest star. That is true. So is that what you need? If you've got the open checkbook and you've got the magic wand, without saying names, do you say, I'm going to put as my main event the sport's biggest star? Is that your answer? Doesn't matter who he's fighting. What if it's a championship match? If you have an open checkbook and you have a magic wand and you don't use any names, but you're going to put the championship on, would you say heavyweight? Would you say women's 135? Would you say wherever Kazmat Chimaev's at? Like, how is it that you would answer that question? And then what if you're really going to go for a big fight? What if you really follow this for a long time and you're going to do what we used to call a super fight, but now we call it title versus title?
So here's what Diaz made crystal clear when he got that White House card opportunity. In most cases, you'd expect a champion to get matched up with another elite contender, maybe even another title holder, but Diaz cut straight through all the noise. When they showed him that card, Conor McGregor was literally the only name that sparked his interest. No sales pitch required, no lengthy discussions needed. For Diaz, it comes down to one simple truth. Nothing else matters unless McGregor is standing across that octagon from him. The writing's on the wall, Diaz wants it. The fans are practically screaming for it, and that third fight between them is just sitting there, waiting for the right moment to explode into reality. Nobody needs to convince anyone why this matchup has to happen.
Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE, so it's like, at least that's happening and getting something to talk about, something to watch, and I'm looking forward to that fight actually.
Now fans want it.
Devontae and Paul should be good, and then because what else are you looking forward to? Hurry up.
Nothing.
Hurry up. What else?
If it's not you, McGregor, Ryan, it's nobody.
So it's good. It's good.
Now fans want you versus McGregor 3. Do you want that fight?
Yeah, for sure.
White House?
Yeah. What time?
Now, Dana White didn't completely shut down the Trilogy talk, but he sure cooled things off with some reality about timing. White stressed that 12 months in this game can flip everything upside down completely. This becomes even more relevant when McGregor keeps hinting at his return, and Diaz openly talks about wanting back in. What White's getting at is that nothing's set in stone right now. The whole sport can transform overnight. Belts change hands, new contenders emerge, and what seems important today might be irrelevant tomorrow. So when next July 4th comes around, the entire MMA world could look totally different than it does today. That massive trilogy isn't off the table, it's just not ready to be made official yet. McGregor says he's getting back in the game. Diaz says he wants to be there waiting.
Interested in that trilogy.
That fight's a year away. Landscape will change so much by next 4th of July. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's going to be on the card? What the main event will be, or who will hold all the titles? Everything could be completely different. So it's not even worth thinking about it right now.
Unlike Dana White's careful approach, Michael Bisping jumped straight into the big picture with his usual directness. He laid it out plain and simple. If Nate Diaz comes back and Conor McGregor returns to competition, Bisping sees zero doubt about what fight to make. Their feud already sits among the most explosive in UFC history. Picture that iconic battle on a historic White House card. It would instantly define the entire event, especially alongside other massive fights already planned for the main attractions. But Bisping's reasoning goes way beyond just promotional value. He recognizes McGregor doesn't need another fight to cement his place in history. However, there's something deeper at play. That competitive fire never really dies. That hunger for one more moment of glory, which makes McGregor's participation in such a historic event feel almost destined to happen.
If Nate Diaz was to come back. But if he was, and if Conor McGregor does actually make it back, I think that's the fight to make all day long. The one-on-one, there were some of the biggest fights in UFC history. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor at the White House would be absolutely insane. It probably will have Tom Aspinall versus John Jones in the main event. It probably will have Conor McGregor versus someone, Michael Chandler or Nate Diaz, in the co-main event. So that just kind of sets the tone for how big that card would be. What do you think? Do you think Conor McGregor will actually make it back? Of course, he hasn't fought since 2021. Right? It's going to be 5 years since he last fought. I, for one, fair play to the guy. Fair play, man. Respect. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to come back. He's got lots of other avenues and ways to make money. But fighting is something that never leaves you, okay? It's a part of who you are. It's in your DNA. It's part of your soul. And he wants to come back and he wants to get his hands raised in victory. Of course, he wants to come back and be a part of that one.
Bisping then expanded his view even further, moving the discussion from simple rivalry to pure entertainment spectacle. When it comes to those once-in-a-generation super fights that can shake the entire sport, he didn't hesitate to name his pick. He pointed straight at John Jones versus Alex Pereira as the one fight that would overshadow everything else imaginable. Consider Pereira's incredible rise, his star quality, and what he's achieved by dominating multiple weight classes. The concept of this fight seems almost fictional, like fantasy brought to life. If Pereira somehow defeated a legend like Jones, Bisping argued, it wouldn't just be another victory, it would create a legacy absolutely nobody in combat sports history has ever approached. Still, he kept things realistic by acknowledging that McGregor versus Chandler remains the expected path for both men, while noting that once politics and relationships within the sport come into play, even the most solid plans can suddenly shift in unexpected directions.
Fair, if we're talking about super fights, if we're talking about something that's really going to get the MMA world excited, then it would be John Jones versus Alex Pereira, right? Alex Pereira is one of the biggest stars. He came back in style and destroyed Magomed Ankalaev. The man's phenomenal. He's unbelievable. He's a two-weight division champion. What he's achieved in this sport is ridiculous. If he was to face John Jones and if he was to beat him, then I guess he would go on and fight for the third belt, and that'd be it. That'd be set in stone. Alex Pereira would, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, be the greatest mixed martial artist to ever compete. Simple as that. There's no one that's fought for 3 belts or won 3 belts. Just the thought of that alone is crazy. I mean, it took me about, 26 fights in the UFC to even get 1 title shot. So they're not easy to come by. Anyway, so there's that. Now they're talking about Conor McGregor fighting Michael Chandler. That's going to be the fight that happens. We all know about that. There's nothing new there. And the thing is, if Donald Trump wants it, if the president of the United States wants it, and as Eric says in that video, him and
the MMA guru brought everything back to the essentials of timing and what fans actually demand. He made a sharp observation that the fight everyone should really anticipate depends entirely on Nate Diaz making a genuine comeback, not just showing up, but delivering a massive victory in the welterweight division. When that happens, he suggested, the trilogy with McGregor becomes compelling enough for White House card status. This distinction matters because hardcore fans seem divided right now. Some buzz about a possible Masvidal rematch, others look toward Glover Teixeira. But here's the interesting part. Many respected voices in the sport, including Ariel Helwani and various insiders, quietly but consistently favor Diaz versus McGregor as the marquee fight that needs to happen next, regardless of the circumstances.
Because that's not the fight I want to see next, okay? If Nate Diaz comes back and gets a big win over someone in the welterweight division, okay? And he does it impressively, and then the McGregor fight happens. That's when I'm interested. But right now, I feel like the hardcore fans are kind of in mutual agreement that it's Masvidal or Gaethje. To us, it's kind of Masvidal or Gaethje, and for Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani to both say that they think Nate Diaz trilogy should be next is strange to me. Very strange to me, because I would love to see either Gaethje or Masvidal. I feel like everyone's in agreement here. We've seen that Donald Cerrone has been beaten by Conor McGregor in his return at UFC 2.
Switching directions completely, Chael Sonnen used his trademark bluntness to slice through all the McGregor White House card hype with some healthy doubt. He openly acknowledged that McGregor is without question the sport's biggest name. That's undeniable fact. But Sonnen quickly argued that popularity alone doesn't automatically make someone the right choice for a main event with such historical importance. Sonnen then shared his detailed thinking for constructing an ideal card with unlimited resources available. He asked viewers whether they'd truly choose a non-title McGregor fight over a championship bout, a huge heavyweight battle, maybe a women's bantamweight title defense, or even a champion versus champion super fight. His message was clear: star power definitely counts, but the bigger question is whether that fame creates the type of matchup that genuinely elevates the sport beyond just name recognition.
That Conor McGregor is being talked to headline the White House card. I don't buy it. I can't buy it. Why are we would be turning to Conor McGregor? And the answer is also out there, because he is the sport's biggest star. That is true. So is that what you need? If you've got the open checkbook and you've got the magic wand, without saying names, do you say, I'm going to put as my main event the sport's biggest star? Is that your answer? Doesn't matter who he's fighting. What if it's a championship match? You have an open checkbook and you have a magic wand and you don't use any names, but you're going to put the championship on. Would you say heavyweight? Would you say women's 135? Would you say wherever Kazmat Chimaev's at? Like, how is it that you would answer that question? And then what if you're really going to go for a big fight? What if you really follow this for a long time? You're going to do what we used to call a super fight, but now we call it title versus title.
Expanding on that reasoning, Sonnen explained why this continuous McGregor discussion for such a milestone event seems questionable and potentially unrealistic. Think about the timeline here. Planning him for mid-2025 on a card scheduled for 2026 at a location that doesn't exist yet, with tickets nowhere near sale, it all feels premature. The core issue, Sonnen forcefully stated, is if Conor isn't champion or actively pursuing a title at that time, making him the headliner means the card's biggest star won't be fighting for gold. Essentially, a non-title McGregor fight topping a card of this historic importance makes that monumental messaging much harder to market to audiences, even with two legitimate championships potentially featured underneath. It weakens the main event's perceived importance.
And it's one of the reasons that I'm struggling with the idea that McGregor is being penciled in the middle of 2025 for a card that sits dead center in the middle of 2026 at a venue yet to be built for tickets that are yet to be on sale. I struggle with it because we're openly saying if we're going to put Conor on there that there's no title. Unless you believe that Conor McGregor is going to demote himself, right? The biggest draw should be the main event. Your biggest star, regardless of belt, should be the main event. But in this case, if our biggest draw and our biggest star is not a champion or a contender in any weight class, we're going to acknowledge up front that our biggest show will not contain a title, which makes it a little difficult down the road to go, this show's bigger than big. In fact, we got 2 titles up. Yes, you heard me, there's 2 titles. When can you ever get that? And nothing more important than a title fight.
Right when the discussion seemed to peak, Ben Askren threw a complete surprise directly at Nate Diaz's entire reputation, holding nothing back as he claimed that Diaz, despite massive hype and devoted fan support, was essentially an ordinary fighter who convinced everyone he was elite through pure personality and confidence. With what Askren called an unremarkable record both in UFC and overall, he positioned Diaz's widespread fame as more about image than actual consistent cage performance. To add fuel to the fire, Askren playfully suggested that speaking this harsh truth publicly, especially about someone as beloved as Diaz, might provoke serious social media retaliation from Diaz's passionate fan base. So whether you love Nate Diaz or think his reputation is overinflated, Askren's bold statement is definitely going to ignite heated arguments throughout the entire MMA community.
No, listen, Nate Diaz, he is the most puzzling. He's not. I don't even think he's that good. I'll go get his record if you want me to. But he has convinced people he is good at fighting somehow, some way.
He's pretty good.
I'm gonna go get his damn record, Daniel. It's not.
But he won the Ultimate Fighter. He won the Ultimate Fighter. I'm saying he was good for the time that he was fighting.
No, he wasn't. He was average.
He was. Yeah. Okay. I'm just.
Okay.
Trying
I'm gonna go get the record. I'm gonna go get the record. They're gonna yell at me. I know this. Okay. Let's see. Well, his record is 21-13.
Oh my God. Really?
Yes, that's not that great.
Okay, I take it back. I'm taking it back.
And he was and going into the UFC, he was, I think it was 5-1. So within the UFC, he was 16-12.
That's not good.
That's not very good.
That's not good. There's really no way to twist that into good.
Yeah. So but you know, his personality. That's another one's like, how did his personality catch on? He says funny things sometimes. He's a little bit different. I don't know. Yeah. And listen, if you post this clip, please don't post this clip because the Diaz.
Regarding who should actually headline at the White House, multiple voices shared their perspectives, beginning with Daniel Cormier addressing all the Jon Jones heavyweight speculation with necessary realism. While he found Jones's weight class move interesting, Cormier strongly believes Jones's finest work and the fight fans truly want remains at light heavyweight. He specifically highlighted a potential explosive showdown with Alex Pereira at 205 pounds on the White House card. Cormier noted that Jones has clearly added significant muscle over time, but stays convinced that dropping those pounds to make 205 again is absolutely achievable, keeping that dream fight realistic and possible. Jon Anik then presented his complete White House card vision, perfectly balancing practical choices with fan excitement. For his headliner, he proposed the heavyweight championship, likely Tom Aspinall defending against Cyril Gane while admitting uncertainty about potential Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira discussions. As his co-main event, Anik carefully selected a bantamweight title fight between Petr Yan and Merab Dvalishvili, expressing sincere hopes that June 14th could feature an incredible 4 or 5 undisputed championships decided on the historic White House grounds, creating an absolutely unprecedented card if everything aligns perfectly. Brendan Schaub revealed what he passionately described as his dream card, a lineup so loaded it would make any real MMA fan completely lose control. He packed it with explosive talent like Ilya Topuria, Islam Makhachev, Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira, and Jon Jones, plus the long-awaited McGregor vs. Diaz trilogy, boldly calling it the kind of event he'd gladly pay premium prices to witness without hesitation. He didn't limit himself to main card fights either, highlighting that preliminary bouts featuring emerging stars like Gable Steveson would be must-see television, with Michael Chandler also secured, creating what he vividly called a card so incredibly stacked it could revolutionize fan expectations for all future events. Taking a different approach, Henry Cejudo shared his thoughts on the absolute biggest potential White House card matchups, and predictably, he spoke with complete conviction. From a high-level list including Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones, Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, Jones versus Francis Ngannou, and McGregor versus Michael Chandler, Cejudo definitively chose Jones versus Aspinall. For Cejudo, this transcends rankings or current momentum. It's fundamentally about meaning. A battle perfectly fitting America's 250th birthday celebration, an epic collision of eras, matching the undisputed greatest ever against today's dominant force. In his thoughtful analysis, that specific confrontation isn't simply important, it's unquestionably the one fight capable of defining the entire monumental event. After absorbing all these expert opinions from the sport's most prominent voices, what's your perspective on this situation? Will Nate Diaz actually return to the Octagon for that final showdown with Conor, or is McGregor possibly considering a completely different opponent for his much-anticipated comeback? Share your complete thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for every breaking update. Believe me, you definitely don't want to miss any part of this developing story.